Breaking news. The case for the release of Nnamdi Kanu has rocked, of course, the National Assembly today as a representative from Ebonyi State filed a motion to that effect, which was supported by the representative from the Umahia North, arguing that the case of killings and insecurity rocking the Ebonyi state is owing to the fact of the detention, the continued incarceration or illegal detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra by the Nigerian state, despite the call or the verdict given by the court for his release having been acquitted and discharged. To this effect, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Abbas Tajuddin, has to turn down such a motion, arguing that such motion should not be brought to fore, since that it has no link with the insecurity going on within the Nigerian state. I think Tajuddin should understand better that within the ambit of the law, once the court of competent jurisdiction has given an order, it is binding on the executive and, of course, the judiciary to comply with such. I should have expected Tajuddin Abbas to call the attention of the executive to that effect instead of turning down such motion or declining to, of course, accept or approve. This motion is tantamount to fueling the already worsened insecurity in the East. Yes, the call for the release, unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu has been hitting, of course, the media and, of course, making heavyweights following the recent declaration of sit at home by one Simon Eba from Finland, who, of course, declared himself to be the Prime Minister of Biafra in exile. And following from the development of recent times, there have been several calls for the release. And for the first time in history, a representative is calling for his unconditional release. And to this effect, it was brought to the fore at the plenary, but unfortunately, for reasons, of course, not too surprised, that Tajuddin Abbas, being the speaker, has to turn down such a motion, saying that the issue bordering on the incarceration of Mazin Nnamdi Kanu should not in any disguise or in any case be brought before the hallowed chamber. Well, but the good thing is that it is no longer business as usual because the report is being felt and the impact can no longer be denied over recent months concerning the continued incarceration or abuse of the rights, fundamental rights of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. Now it has come to the plenary, and of course, those House of Representatives sum up courage to bring it, of course, to the fore. That presupposes that things will no longer be at ease because it is obligatory, it is mandatory on the Nigerian government to release a man who has been discharged and acquitted. His continued detention, of course, is tantamount to abuse of his fundamental rights and will not be well treated by his teammates supporters and, of course, his brothers and friends and the true lovers of democratic norms and process because it amounts to a total abuse of power by the executives. And one will say, what would be the interest for holding back a man who has not been convicted, A man who presumes innocent until the competent court has to give their verdict, which saw him being acquitted and discharged. Well, it's quite unfortunate that this is happening in Nigeria, the so-called democratic state, but we have not seen in reality the democratic, of course, ordinances are being practiced within this contraption. Well, we will know how far such could be pushed and how long this can be sustained. Yes, of course, it is important to note that most of the killings within the Ebony Axis is as a result of greedy and excessive greed by the political elites, the spokespersons, who will want to exploit, of course, the mineral resources by so doing sponsoring some thuggeries and proliferation of arms by those concerned in order to remain relevant and continue to exploit that regions. Has nothing to do with, of course, the agitation for the release of Nnamdi Kanu, just as what is happening in Sambisa Forest, where, of course, some prominent personalities are using distortion of the public or distortion of public peace in order to achieve their obnoxious and dastard art of exploiting the mineral resources within this region. It is very quite interesting to note that the call for the release of the incarcerated leader of indigenous people of Biafra remains unabating and becoming worrisome of the continued delay or abuse of power by the executive or the federal government of Nigeria towards this very sensitive issue of national concern and should not be waived, of course, or treated with kid glove. Uh, Mazin Kanu has overwhelming and teeming populations who believe in his struggle and his ideology regarding the restoration of the Biafran state. Well, time will tell how far this could be sustained, and we believe that the more modalities on how, of course, the government should conduct themselves to ensure that peace is restored in this eastern region